Here's a look at our lineup today here on the Now. After recent issues with lettuce safety, you may be looking at labels more closely. We're going to get answers on how the claims you see are regulated. And kids with dyslexia can struggle in traditional public schools, so we're going to take you inside one of the few free schools geared to their needs. And getting student athletes to look out for one another through virtual reality, the important education program just made available for free to youth sports anywhere.
Thanks, Chris. I'm Nicole Griffin, and thanks for joining us here on the Now Indy. A 9-year-old battling pediatric Crohn's disease in Avon has found passion through his pain. RTV6's Troy Washington tells us about the disease parents might not consider when it comes to their child suffering.
I wasn't even aware what Crohn's was at first.
At first, Jamie Curl wasn't clear on the details of the chronic inflammatory bowel disease that can cause life-threatening complications.
It was very thin. He could not keep anything down. The toilet was full of blood. It was a really hard time.
This mother says she never even considered Crohn's disease because her son was only 5 at the time.
I had a doctor even call him an enigma.
She says doctors didn't even suspect it right away.
Went to 3 different children's hospitals before he was diagnosed, and he was very sick. I mean, I thought I was going to lose my son because nobody knew what was going on.
Finally, specialists at the Children's Hospital in Cincinnati made the diagnosis. They told the family, though most people don't associate children with the disease, it happens.
If you're a parent and you think something's not right, just keep searching until you find the answers.
Tyson Berry has lived with pediatric Crohn's for 4 years now, and in the last year, he's finally found an outlet.
When he started playing ball, he just came to life on the court.
Basketball keeps Tyson focused despite taking 5 different medications and doing injections.
He has to work twice as hard as some other kids do to even get some of the same results because his body just wants to fight him so much.
It's no easy task, especially right now. Tyson is recovering from a recent surgery and can't play with his travel team, but he draws inspiration from players like Pacers star Victor Oladipo.
He's the strongest person I know. I mean, he truly is. I've never seen anyone deal with the pain he does and do it so well.
So how does this 9-year-old keep pushing even when the pain won't let up?
Get healed up and I can play again.
He's got a goal that he thinks makes his fight with Crohn's disease worth it. Working for you in Avon, Troy Washington, RTV6.
Troy, thank you. Tyson dreams of meeting Oladipo, who he considers a role model. The 9-year-old is currently adjusting to new medication to keep the disease under control. Though flare-ups are unavoidable, with the right regimen, he's able to keep things in check and keep playing basketball. Kyle.
And Nicole, it almost looks a little hazy out there as we check out the view from the IMS Pagoda camera there. We've got clouds in place. Could see a couple of flurries here as we go through the evening in some areas south of Interstate 70. Could see even a few snow showers. Satellite and radar, though, very quiet right now. As we look back to the south and west, you can see a few more of those snow showers. Again, this is all very light, a little more bark than bite on radar here this evening. This will continue to stream off toward the east. So around Bloomington, Bedford, Seymour, a couple of snow showers not out of the question. But you can see not only are we locked into the cloud cover, but it is pretty expansive here across the Midwest, and that's also keeping everybody quite chilly. Temperatures in the 20s around Des Moines, 30 in Peoria. We've got temperatures in the 30s here across central Indiana, 34 in downtown and Columbus, Peru. You're sitting at 32 degrees, and those numbers, because of the blanketed cloud cover, aren't going to move a whole lot. As we go through the overnight, we'll have those temperatures into the 30s, eventually into the upper 20s by tomorrow morning. Coming up, we'll talk about some small precipitation chances coming our way. Finally, some sunshine will return and a big warm-up for the weekend. Chris.
The U.S. has brought back more than 200 American consulate workers and private U.S. citizens from China. Their flight was rerouted to March Air Reserve Base east of Los Angeles. This is video of it arriving today. All the passengers passed health screenings during a stop in Alaska to refuel the plane, but they will also be quarantined for at least 3 days in California, and they'll be monitored by the CDC. Now, those who show symptoms of coronavirus will be tested for it and may be held for as long as 2 weeks. The NTSB is finding out more about the helicopter crash that killed Kobe Bryant. Investigators found that the chopper did not come equipped with a terrain awareness system. Now, that gives pilots pictorial representation of the terrain that they're flying over, and it gives them visual and oral warnings if they are coming too close to dangerous terrain. Now, while the system is useful, it's not mandatory. Most airplanes do come equipped with the system, but most helicopter transportation companies don't use it because of the cost. Right now, the terrain awareness system is only mandatory in air ambulances and other medical medical helicopters. The NTSB has pushed for the system to be mandatory, and aviation safety experts agree that it is extremely helpful.
If you're not on an instrument flight plan and air traffic control is not helping you out, it's very easy to fly into the high train unless you have a synthetic vision or a train avoidance warning system on board.
The NTSB plans on releasing a preliminary report on the helicopter crash within the next week. A final report could take about a year or more. Now, along with details of the crash, it could also come with new safety recommendations. Well, let's start the Now news feed. President Trump signing the new trade deal with Mexico and Canada. This deal replacing NAFTA, which was in place since 1994. And experts say there really is little change in this new deal, but there are some new provisions on fields like e-commerce, according to NBC News. The government is putting in new rules for drones. The Interior Department is putting in a no-fly rule aimed at drones made in China and Chinese parts. Now, there are concerns the devices could be used for spying. We'll call it the end of an era for space exploration as NASA is putting the Spitzer Space Telescope into retirement tomorrow. The telescope scanned the universe with infrared eyes for 16 years, and it will now drift off into space. Well, let's get back to our lineup. Triple washed, hydroponically grown, USDA organic. There are so many labels on lettuce. Now, after recent issues with safety, we're going to get answers on the claims that you can really trust.
For just $169 a month.
Welcome back. The State House was filled with cancer patients and survivors today during Indiana Cancer Action Day at the Capitol. Lawmakers and their staff laced up their sneakers with their suits to show support for the cancer survivors, patients and caregivers, as well as honor those who lost their battle with cancer. The American Cancer Society Action Network organized today's event to call on lawmakers to pass public health policies that will put an end to cancer through legislation. It's estimated that more than 3,300 Hoosiers will be diagnosed with colorectal cancer, and more than 300 of those people will be under the age of 50. 45 years old is the new recommended guideline from the American Cancer Society for these screenings. Andrea Bauer had colorectal cancer, and she hopes her story will keep a bill moving forward for insurance companies to ensure that colorectal cancer screenings are covered for insured Hoosiers starting at age 45 instead of 50.
When I was first diagnosed, it was a very lonely feeling. I thought that there was no one else like me. Little did I know that 10 minutes away from my house was another colon cancer survivor. Get screened. The colonoscopy prep is not as bad as chemo. Chemo is 100 times worse. So if you get screened and you get polyps removed, you're saving yourself, one, a lot of money, a lot of struggle, and no chemo.
Volunteers also advocated today to raise the minimum age of sale for all tobacco products to 21 years old to mirror the federal law. An update now on an Indianapolis pastor in need of a bone marrow transplant. We told you in December about Pastor Avery Bush of Faith Missionary Baptist Church in Indianapolis. He was diagnosed in July with leukemia. Since then, he's gone through several rounds of chemo, knowing the cancer will likely keep coming back without a bone marrow transplant. A bone marrow registry drive was held in December to try to find a match, and we have learned that his son is a 50% match, so they've gone ahead and scheduled a transplant for mid-February. A 100% match is always better, so between now and then, the search will continue.
The FDA has said the E. coli outbreak out of Salinas, California is finally over. Lettuce is safe to eat again, but experts say that we should still take our own precautions to eat clean vegetables. Now, usually those precautions start with the label, but Consumer Reports looked into this and found that labels aren't always accurate or representative of what they say.
One of the unregulated claims on lettuce labels is triple washed, ready to eat, washed. Those may mean that the lettuce has been washed, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's free of bacteria.
Now, when producers wash lettuce, they do it to remove dirt and grit, not necessarily to remove bacteria. And even lettuce that's been labeled triple washed, it may still contain harmful bacteria. As far as other claims go, Consumer Reports found that the pesticide-free label doesn't really mean much.
It's a little ambiguous, but organic means that the farm is following the organic standards set by the USDA, and that part of those standards are that the produce is not grown with harmful synthetic pesticides or with synthetic fertilizers.
Now, if you feel you still need to take some extra precautions to keep your greens clean, you can soak them in vinegar before rinsing them with water. This won't necessarily kill 100% of harmful bacteria, but it will help reduce it. Let's start the Now newsfeed. The CEO of Boeing says the name 737 MAX is here to stay. David Calhoun says they won't change the name. They hope it will fly again by the middle of this year. The company lost money last year for the first time since 1997. Well, the Screen Actors Guild is putting in new rules in hopes of stopping sexual harassment. Crew members for sex and nude scenes must now have meetings to establish more specific details of what the actors will be doing, and it's so the actors know what they are consenting to in the scene. Nissan is struggling, and the company now offering voluntary packages to U.S. workers to leave the company. It's trying to resize. It didn't say just how many workers are being offered that package. All right, ahead in our lineup, certain low-level crimes can negatively impact a person their entire life. How more states are now taking action to give people a new start.
And we're taking a live look right now at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, where the Pacers and Bulls are warming up for tonight's big game that will see the return of Victor Oladipo after more than a year away. And you see Victor Oladipo right here. He just walked out on the court. He is warming up. We are preparing a live report coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. Join our Dave First and Brad Brown for the very latest. Stay with us.
Keller and Keller.
The legalization of marijuana across the country is bringing a lot of changes. And Elizabeth Ruiz is looking into the action more states are taking with the drug to give people a new start.
Darius Ballinger is the founder of Chasing 23.
It's essentially a one-year program that provides wraparound services to young men that are at risk of being incarcerated, of prone to violence, or maybe at risk in terms of academics.
He was inspired to start the nonprofit after losing a close friend, and he wanted to make a difference in his community. But he says, in all honesty, becoming an entrepreneur seemed like the only option to move on from his past that stained his identity when applying for jobs, housing, or higher education.
I have a 2009 intent to deliver possession charge with cannabis.
Darius had moved on from his conviction, thinking it would always be a part of him. But now that Illinois has legalized recreational marijuana, Darius has an opportunity to get his record expunged, or in other words, forgiven and forgotten.
Once you legalize adult use cannabis, we really need to work on expunging the records, pardoning people, getting rid of the arrest records of people who historically have been discriminated against.
Upon legalizing marijuana in Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker pardoned more than 11,000 low-level cannabis-related convictions. It was an action applauded by the American Civil Liberties Union as a step toward ending racial discrimination.
People of color have been arrested, convicted, and sentenced more and more harshly than white people throughout the so-called war on drugs.
Those were the primary reasons we legalized. It was for these very serious reasons, right? It was criminal justice reform and safety and trying to reverse the damage.
In an attempt to reverse that damage, 25% of Illinois cannabis tax revenue will go toward the Restore, Reinvest, and Renew program. It will fund strategies that focus on violence prevention and health services in neighborhoods that need them.
We need to remove the stigma of criminalization and stop jailing people and applying punishment that doesn't really work.
There is an exception to expungement for people who have a violent crime on their record. However,
most people who have a cannabis conviction don't have that on their record.
Though he did it without the help of a clean record, Darius is a prime example of somebody who has found new opportunity. But he knows his situation is not common.
Outside of me, you're not going to find too many people that went to jail, went to prison, come back, get an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, go fellowships. Like I'm the exception to a problem that's very normal.
I'm Elizabeth Ruiz reporting.
Elizabeth, thank you. And the difference in the cost of living when you rent compared to when you own is getting smaller. Realtor.com found that the cost of buying has dropped over 1% over a year. Now, rent has gone up about 4% during that same time. Looked at nearly 600 counties across the country to come up with this. And while it is still more expensive monthly to buy a home, the difference is just under $300 a month. Mortgage interest rates are on a downward trend.
All right, let's take you live back to Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and this is a great sight to see. Victor Oladipo is there on the court, practicing and doing a little shoot around here ahead of tonight's game as they take on the Bulls at 7 o'clock. He is making his return after just over a year from that injury. So great to see that he is back and ready to go here this evening. Of course, Dave First, Brad Brown will bring us continuing coverage here at 6 o'clock. We have the cloudy skies. We got the chilly temperatures to go along with it. 34 in Indianapolis, 35 right now in Bloomington, and 32 in Marion, Indiana. A little bit of a breeze, and that is certainly knocking back those wind chills. Feels like it's 28 in Indianapolis, feels like 27 in Lafayette and Columbus. And tonight we'll see our actual temperature dropping back into the upper 20s with those cloudy skies. Few flurries, especially near and north of Interstate 70. Now Bloomington, Bedford, Seymour, even Columbus could see a few more snow showers as we go through this evening. We're not anticipating accumulation from that though. As we go throughout the planner tomorrow, may see a couple of rays of sunshine here, but I think still the clouds are going to be winning out with temperatures making their way into the upper 30s, so just a touch above average for this time of year. Even some lower 40s. Bloomington and Columbus at 43, 39 degrees in Noblesville and Hamilton County. On Friday, we'll see a little more sunshine as we go into the second half of the day, and temperatures will respond to that as we'll make our way into the middle 40s. And then we got a chance for a light wintry mix coming our way the first half of the weekend. The second half looking a whole lot better. Some sunshine returns and highs in the 50s.
Let's start the Now news feed. The man responsible for the South Carolina church massacre is appealing the death penalty. Dylan Roof's lawyers say he has schizophrenia, and the jury didn't know that during his trial. Roof killed 9 people in that attack in 2015. The United Nations, victim of a hack. Hackers got into the UN's offices in Switzerland and Austria last year. It's unclear just how much information they were able to get their hands on. The Justice Department is going after those who feel they helped robocalls get to your phone. The DOJ filed legal action to stop 3 home-based telecommunications companies from patching those calls through. It blames the companies for helping millions of calls come from overseas to your phone. Well, as many as 2 million children in the U.S. have dyslexia. It impacts just how well they do in class. And as Maya Rodriguez shows us, at one school, dyslexia doesn't affect just one student. It affects all of them. And that's by design.
Okay, put your things away and come in and get your morning warm-up.
It looks like your typical elementary school.
Yeah, good job. That's nice. I like the way you start with capital letters.
Teachers, students, desks, morning announcements.
Please always choose to keep our school clean and organized.
Thank you, sir. Take a seat.
But at this school, the entire student body is anything but typical.
Good job, Eliana.
All of the 150 students here are dyslexic.
This year so far, we have applications from California, Vermont, and Texas.
Heidi Bishop is the principal of Lakes and Bridges Charter School in Easley, South Carolina. A public charter school, it opened in 2018 and is attracting attention from all over the country because it's specifically designed for students diagnosed with dyslexia.
And that affects their comprehension, which then affects every component of their school day.
The school is one of only a handful of free schools in the U.S. geared towards students with dyslexia. Allison Bullock's adopted twin daughters, along with her grandson, all ended up here after all 3 struggled in a traditional public school.
It was nice as a parent to finally get recognition of, oh, that's what's going on, and we can help you with that.
As many as 43.5 million Americans have dyslexia. Like other learning disabilities, it can have long-term serious consequences for kids. Compared to other students, they have more than double the high school dropout rate. And private schools catering to students with dyslexia cost tens of thousands of dollars a year. Not an option for these families.
This shouldn't just be available only to children whose parents either could write that check or have enough resources.
Which is why Bishop says their free school gets overwhelmed by applications, requiring a wait list. For those who made the cut, relief.
We're just proud to be a part of it. We're proud to be a part of, the start. We love it. It has helped our children so much, and they have come a long way since being here. We're just grateful.
And hopeful that the education of these students sets them on a path to success. In Easley, South Carolina, I'm Maya Rodriguez reporting.
Thank you. Next on our lineup, concussions are a big concern in youth sports, and teams are now turning to virtual reality to help what this course is teaching to make sports safer.